Hey everyone, today we're going to step back in time to the land of golden deserts and monumental temples to meet a young prince who would become one of the most controversial rulers in all of history. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. And wherever you are, whatever time it is in your part of the world, I hope you're relaxed and ready to listen. Now, let's listen to the compelling story in this video of mine. You shuffle along the polished floors of the Theban palace, just a boy in the shadow of towering statues and long corridors echoing with whispers of divine kingship. Your name is Amenhotep, son of Pharaoh Amenhotep III and Queen Taye, and for most of your childhood, no one expects you to change the world. You're a quiet child, observant, not as physically imposing as your brothers, but you've inherited your mother's sharp intellect and your father's fascination with the divine. Outside your private garden, priests chant hymns to Amen, the king of gods, their voices rising like the Nile flood. You're surrounded by a kingdom at its peak, overflowing with gold from Nubia and tribute from distant Syria and Canaan. Egypt is wealthy, stable, and steeped in traditions older than memory. The priests of Amen are nearly as powerful as the pharaoh himself. Their temples stretch for miles, filled with treasure and armies of servants. Even as a boy, you notice how often the palace consults these priests before making any decision. You're often taken to Karnak, the great temple of Amun, where incense chokes the air and colossal pylons rise like mountains. You watch your father bow to Amun's image, offering golden bowls, wine, and cattle. Yet when you look up at the sky, you feel something stirring. Not the carved figure of a hidden god locked in a shrine, but the glowing sun disk that warms your skin and lights the entire land. You find yourself thinking, what if divinity isn't locked inside dark rooms, but shines openly above everyone? Your tutors fill your days with reading hieroglyphs, mathematics, and sacred rituals. You're taught Egypt's history, how pharaohs like Thutmose III conquered vast territories, how gods like Osiris rule the underworld. Yet you're drawn more to the hymns about Ra, the sun god, and something deeper, the Aten, the visible disk itself, unshaped by human hands. You sketch its rays in the sand, each ending with tiny hands touching earth and life. Your relationship with your mother, Tiae, strengthens your curiosity. She's intelligent, politically savvy, and not afraid to question old traditions. From her, you learn that power isn't just about armies, it's about ideas. She whispers about your father's experiments with new temples to lesser gods, hints of divine change already in the air. But you're still a boy, one step behind the older princes expected to inherit power. You spend hours watching craftsmen at work, fascinated by the way they shape stone into living gods. One day, as you sit beneath a sycamore, an elderly priest notices your sketches of the Aten and laughs softly. "Careful, young one," he says, "our gods are not so easily replaced." You smile politely, but a seed is planted. Why not? Life in the royal court is luxurious, gold jewelry, sweet dates, perfumed baths, but it's also suffocating. You see endless rituals for gods you don't feel connected to, and court politics that favor priests who already hold massive wealth. Even as a child, you feel the tension. The throne of Egypt seems shared, not truly ruled. One evening, you stand on the balcony overlooking the Nile as the sun dips, flooding the sky with crimson and gold. The Aten glows like a living presence, and you whisper to yourself, why do we worship shadows when the real God shines on us every day? It's a dangerous thought, but it's one you can't let go. Your childhood passes with this quiet rebellion forming in your heart. You're overlooked compared to your athletic brothers, but your curiosity and strange devotion to the sun make you unique. People don't know it yet, but this boy with soft features and a thoughtful stare will one day shake Egypt to its core, not with swords or armies, but with belief itself. The path is already forming. One day, you'll become Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, and the gods themselves, at least Egypt's gods, will never be the same again. The day your father dies, the palace grows silent, like the wind has been stolen from the sails of the Nile boats. Amenhotep III, the magnificent builder and lover of opulence, is gone. You are no longer the overlooked prince sketching sun disks in the sand. You are Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, the living god on earth, or so everyone expects you to be. But even as the royal crown rests heavy on your head, you sense eyes watching you. not with love, but with calculation. The priests of Amun are everywhere, their golden collars flashing in the sunlight, their voices smooth as honey but edged with warning. For centuries, these priests have grown rich and powerful, controlling not just temples, but vast estates, workshops, and armies of workers. Some even whisper that Amun's high priest wields as much power as the pharaoh himself. You take the traditional throne names, attend the ceremonies, and stand before Amun's colossal statue as incense curls around you. The priests chant blessings, but deep inside, you're restless. It feels like performing for an audience that doesn't share your heart. You glance up through the temple's open roof, watching the Aten's rays filter down, and for a moment you think, this is the God I trust, not this dark, hidden idol. Your advisors urge caution. Amun's priesthood keeps the people happy, one whispers. Disturb them, and the Nile itself might dry. Another adds, the old gods have kept Egypt strong for 1,000 years. Why change what works? You nod politely, but your mind is already pulling away from tradition. Your mother, Tie, remains a steady voice in your ear. Your father kept them in check, she says softly one evening as the two of you sit in the garden. He balanced their power with diplomacy and wealth. But you, my son, are not your father. You see differently. Go on. Perhaps that will save you or destroy you. Early in your reign, you continue your father's policies, commissioning statues, funding temples, and hosting festivals. Yet when you personally lead a ritual to Amun, your hands tremble, not from fear, but from discomfort. It feels wrong. It feels hollow. You begin studying ancient hymns about Ra, the sun god, and especially Aten, that mysterious disk sometimes treated as an aspect of Ra. To most Egyptians, Aten is just one god among many. To you, it becomes a symbol of something bigger, something purer. Unlike Amun, who hides in inner sanctuaries, Aten is visible to everyone. No secrets, no hidden priesthood needed to interpret his power. One morning, as you walk the palace gardens, you stop by a reflecting pool. The Aten's light shimmers on the surface, surrounding you in golden warmth. A god for all people, everywhere, every day, you murmur to yourself. No shadows, no doors, just light. Your courtiers notice subtle changes. You wear talismans shaped like the Aten disk instead of Amun's ram-headed symbols. You fund small shrines to Aten, placing them prominently where all can see. And you begin quietly favoring officials and artists who share your enthusiasm for this god of light. At first, no one challenges you. Pharaohs experiment with gods all the time. Egypt's pantheon is huge, after all. But the priests of Amun are watching. They see where your loyalties are shifting, and though they smile, their eyes hold storm clouds. Foreign affairs demand your attention too. Vassals from Syria and Canaan send tributes and complaints about neighboring powers. You approve military deployments and keep Egypt's empire stable, but your heart isn't in conquest or war. You'd rather be in temple courtyards debating theology than planning sieges. Already some of your generals whisper, our new king dreams of gods, not borders. One evening, while watching the sunset from your balcony, you say aloud to no one, I will not be a puppet of priests. I will be Pharaoh in truth, not just in name. The words hang heavy, bold, almost dangerous. It's the beginning of a choice that will one day turn Egypt upside down. You're Pharaoh now, yes, but in your heart, you're still the boy who loved the open sun more than shadowed idols. And soon, that boy's dream will explode into a revolution that shakes the very foundations of Egyptian faith. You sit alone in the cool hush of your private chambers, scrolls of ancient hymns unrolled before you. By torchlight, you trace your fingers over verses written hundreds of years earlier. Praises to Ra, to the Aten as his visible disk, to the light that sustains all life. The words feel alive, fresh, as if they've been waiting for you all along. In the days that follow, you take every opportunity to slip away from the formal rituals of the Amun priests. Instead, you visit smaller, lesser-known shrines dedicated to Aten. Unlike the dark inner sanctuaries of Amun's temples, these Aten shrines are open to the sky. Sunlight floods everything, casting sharp shadows on the polished limestone floors. Here, there are no mysterious idols hiding behind curtains, no cryptic rituals known only to an elite priesthood. There is only the open disk, glowing and obvious for all to see. Why must the divine hide in darkness? You ask Nefertiti one afternoon as you walk with her through palace gardens. She looks at you with curious eyes. Perhaps because mystery gives men power, she says. You nod because you already know it's true. The Amun priesthood controls knowledge, land, and wealth by keeping the divine distant. Aten, by contrast, needs no secret rituals, no army of priests, just the open sun. This idea grows like floodwater behind a dam. You begin composing hymns of your own, praising Aten as the creator of all life, man, beast, and plant alike. For the first time, you don't just revere Aten, you begin to believe he might be the god, above all others, unique and indivisible. It's a radical thought in Egypt, where hundreds of gods coexist in a sprawling pantheon. Your private devotion soon becomes visible. You commission small stelae depicting Aten as a radiant disk with rays ending in hands, each touching earth, bestowing life. It's unlike anything traditional Egyptian artists have done before. Simpler, cleaner, and unmistakably focused on the sun itself, not the hidden figure of a god with human or animal form. Whispers start. Court officials notice your new hymns, your increasing absence from traditional Amun ceremonies. Priests whisper among themselves, the pharaoh's prayers are strange. He ignores the gods who built this empire. The high priest of Amun sends polite invitations to attend temple processions. You decline, citing illness, then private worship, and finally no reason at all. At night, you stand on the palace balcony, watching the stars fade as dawn breaks. Each sunrise feels like a personal message. I am here. I give life to everything. Why worship anything else? You begin thinking of the Aten, not just as a god, but as the god, universal and singular. One evening, you invite your closest advisors and family to a private meal under the open sky. The Aten's rays pour down as you rise to speak. We have worshipped shadows for too long. Aten shines for all of us equally, needing no temple walls to prove his power. Should we not honor the source itself, rather than the shadows it casts? A hush falls over your guests. Some nod politely. Others glance nervously at one another. Your mother, Tai, watches with quiet concern. She knows where this could lead. From that day, your personal devotion to Aten intensifies. You order new temples built, not enclosed, but open to the sky. You encourage your artisans to experiment with imagery never before seen. You and Nefertiti standing beneath Aten's rays, the god's hands blessing you directly, bypassing all priests. The shift is subtle at first, but it marks a turning point. The old gods are still worshipped, and the temples of Amun still bustle with offerings, but the pharaoh, the living embodiment of Ma'at, is starting to speak differently. The old balance between crown and temple begins to wobble, and in the quiet of your own mind, a dangerous conviction takes root. Perhaps Aten is not just supreme, perhaps Aten is the only god. That thought is revolutionary, explosive even, and deep inside, you know it will not go unanswered. You wake one morning to find gifts from the priests of Amun stacked outside your chamber. Golden amulets, rare incense, and letters thick with flowery praise. It's a gesture of loyalty, or perhaps warning. Their power is enormous, their reach extending to every town and every governor. For centuries, they have managed the wealth of Egypt's most important temples, effectively forming a state within a state. When you enter Karnak Temple for the next festival, you see their influence on full display. Hundreds of priests in pristine white linen line the processional route. Amun's statue, hidden deep within its gilded shrine, is carried on the shoulders of high-ranking clergy. Trumpets sound, drums echo through the courtyards, and the crowd cheers, not for you, the living pharaoh, but for the unseen god they claim to serve. You walk in silence, feeling the weight of every eye on you. Later, during private council meetings, the high priest of Amun speaks with polite firmness. Your Majesty, the people need stability. Amun's blessings ensure the Nile floods, the harvest grows, and enemies fall before our armies. Disturb that balance, and Egypt may suffer. His words are coded in reverence, but the meaning is clear. Stay in your place. Yet, you can't ignore the frustration that burns inside you. Why should priests rival the pharaoh in power? Why should Egypt's wealth flow into temples that act as independent kingdoms? Even the architecture tells the story. Karnak is so massive it dwarfs your own palace. It's as if the priests, not the pharaoh, are the true rulers of Egypt. One evening, you share your thoughts with Nefertiti. They hold the people through fear of unseen gods, you tell her, pacing near the reflecting pool. But the Aten is visible for all to see, free, open, giving life to all without favor. Why should divinity be locked behind closed doors? Nefertiti, her eyes sharp and thoughtful, replies, "Then open the doors, husband. Let everyone see what you see." That night, you make a decision. You will challenge the power of Amen. You start quietly, reallocating funds from Amen's temples to Aten shrines. You appoint officials who share your vision of open worship. And you begin drafting royal decrees that chip away at the Amen priesthood's control over estates and workers. Whispers turn to rumors. The priests mutter in corners, their faces tight with restrained anger. Some accuse you of heresy, others of madness. Yet you push forward. You order new Aten temples built, not enclosed sanctuaries like Amen's, but open-air courts without roofs, so the sun's rays can fall directly on the altars. The people are confused. Most Egyptians have never questioned the pantheon. Worshipping many gods is simply life. They mutter among themselves, "The pharaoh prays only to one god now?" Farmers still bring offerings to Amen, Osiris, and Isis, but they notice the change. Aten symbols appearing on royal seals, hymns praising the sun disk broadcast during festivals. And then you take a bolder step. At a royal festival, instead of giving thanks to Amen, you stand before the crowd and raise your arms to Aten, proclaiming, "Life comes from the one who shines on us all." Aten alone sustains every breath, every grain, every heartbeat. The priests remain silent, but their eyes are daggers. They know what this means. It's not just a theological statement. It's a political one. By elevating Aten, you're stripping their influence, weakening their centuries-old monopoly on divine power. Your court becomes divided. Traditionalists cling to Amen, while younger officials, artists, and idealists begin embracing Aten. In private, your mother Tai warns you, "You walk a dangerous road, my son." Pharaohs do not erase gods lightly. But you can't turn back now. You believe Aten's light is truth itself, and you're ready to break centuries of tradition to prove it. The priests of Amen may have ruled from the shadows, but you are determined to bring Egypt into the open sun, even if it means making enemies of men who've stood behind the throne for generations. The battle lines are quietly being drawn, and soon the clash between pharaoh and priesthood will erupt. The first time you meet Nefertiti, it is not as pharaoh, but as a man stunned into silence. She is radiant, not only in beauty, but in presence. Her name means, "The beautiful one has come," and indeed, it feels as if she has stepped out of a myth. She carries herself with a confidence that matches any general, and when she speaks, there's a sharpness in her words that suggests she is not content to be just a ceremonial queen. Your marriage is both political and personal. She may be connected to a powerful courtier and likely your future advisor, but beyond that, you find yourself drawn to her fierce intelligence. Together, you are more than just pharaoh and queen. You are partners. It's Nefertiti who listens patiently when you speak about the Aten, who challenges you when your ideas take dangerous turns, and who encourages you when you doubt yourself. In those early days of rule, when opposition from Amun's priests grows louder, Nefertiti becomes your greatest ally. "They fear change," she tells you one night, as you both watch the sunset from the palace balcony. "But you are the change. Don't let them bind you to their old shadows." Her hand slips into yours, and for a moment, the weight of power feels lighter. It is Nefertiti who suggests a bold idea. "If you want the people to see Aten as you do, then let them see us as Aten's chosen. Let them see our devotion, not through priests or intermediaries, but directly." You realize then that your vision of religious reform isn't just about theology. It's about how the royal family itself is seen. Together, you reshape how the pharaoh and queen are portrayed. In traditional art, the pharaoh is distant, godlike, towering above all others, while the queen stands in supportive silence. You change this. You have artists sculpt and paint you and Nefertiti together, worshiping Aten side by side. In some scenes, she is shown as your equal, sometimes even smiting enemies or standing alone beneath the Aten's rays. It is revolutionary, a deliberate signal. This is not just your reform, it is hers as well. The palace changes too. You build new shrines where only Aten is worshipped, and Nefertiti often leads ceremonies herself, raising her hands to the sun as its rays touch her skin. The people whisper about her beauty, yes, but also about her power. "She is like Isis reborn," one villager says. "No, greater. She walks with the pharaoh as one." Your relationship with her is not just symbolic, it is deeply personal. Together, you have daughters, 6 in all, each representing a hope for the future. Family scenes, once rare in royal art, now appear everywhere. You, Nefertiti, and your daughters playing together under Aten's rays, kissed by the divine light. It sends a message. Under Aten, life itself, family, love, creation, is sacred. But not everyone is pleased. Traditionalists sneer at the feminized pharaoh who shows affection in public, who allows his queen to stand as an equal. The Amun priesthood mutters that such depictions are improper, even dangerous, undermining the strict divine hierarchy. You ignore them. With Nefertiti, you feel unstoppable. She is not merely your consort, but your co-reformer, sharing your belief that the old gods must yield to the truth of Aten. At night, as you lie together beneath an open ceiling designed to let the stars and morning sun in, she whispers, "One day they will understand. One day all of Egypt will worship in the light." Her confidence steals your resolve. If before you were hesitant, now you are certain Aten is supreme, and with Nefertiti by your side, you will remake Egypt in that light. This partnership, this union of vision and love, becomes the foundation for one of the most radical experiments in faith and power the ancient world has ever seen. The day you proclaim Aten as the supreme god, the air in Thebes feels heavy, like the Nile before a flood. You stand before a gathering of officials, priests, and artists, sunlight blazing on polished limestone. In your hands is the decree, already sealed with your cartouche. When you speak, your voice is calm but unyielding. Aten is the source of all life. No god is greater, for none can match the light that shines upon all the earth. From this day, Aten is not simply among the gods. Aten is the god. There is silence, broken only by the hot wind sweeping through the courtyard. Eyes widen, mouths part in disbelief. For centuries, Egypt has been a land of countless gods, each with temples, priesthoods, and festivals. To declare one god supreme and implicitly above all others is unheard of, almost unthinkable. The Amun priesthood is furious, though they bow stiffly and say nothing, yet. You know they're plotting already, weighing whether you can be influenced or must be undermined. But this decree is only the beginning. You take a new name, one that rejects your old ties to the old gods. No longer Amenhotep IV, Amun is satisfied. From now on, you are Akhenaten, effective for the Aten. The name change is a public declaration of war on the old order. Your court reacts in mixed ways. Some officials, eager to stay in your favor, immediately adopt Atenist language, greeting each other with "life to Aten." Others murmur that Egypt's divine balance has been broken, that ignoring gods like Osiris and Amun invites disaster. But you press forward. You order temples across Egypt to shift resources toward Aten worship. New hymns are composed, praising Aten as the sole creator of life. Festivals are redesigned, no longer carrying Amun's hidden statue, but instead celebrating under the open sky. The new iconography is striking. Aten's disk shines down with rays ending in tiny hands, each hand holding the Ankh, the symbol of life, reaching toward you and Nefertiti directly. You also ban the traditional closed sanctuaries. No god shall be hidden, you decree, for the one true God is visible to all. It's a direct challenge to Amun's greatest strength, mystery. Where Amun's presence is locked away in darkness, Aten's worship happens in light, outdoors, in open courtyards where anyone can see and feel the sun's warmth. The people are divided. Many are bewildered. Why risk angering gods who have blessed Egypt for millennia? Farmers still whisper prayers to Osiris for good harvests. Fishermen still honor Sobek of the Nile crocodiles. Yet, some find your idea refreshing. One god, visible to all, without priests demanding complex rituals. If Aten shines on everyone, a potter mutters to a neighbor, then maybe the pharaoh is right. Maybe this god belongs to us all. To solidify Atenism, you fund great building projects. New temples with no roofs, their altars bathed in sunlight. Inscriptions on walls now bear only Aten's name and yours as his prophet. The artistic style changes too. Gone are the rigid, idealized forms of previous dynasties. Instead, scenes show intimate family moments, life's simple joys under Aten's blessing. You and Nefertiti appear as human beings, parents, lovers, not distant, untouchable gods. The backlash grows quietly. Priests of Amun grit their teeth as their tithes dwindle. Some nobles whisper about curses, claiming the Nile might fail if the gods are angered. Even some commoners mutter that ignoring Osiris could mean chaos in the afterlife. Yet you remain undeterred. At every public appearance, you stand with arms raised, Aten's rays shining on your face, declaring, "The light of Aten nourishes all life." No priest is needed to stand between you and the divine. This is no minor religious adjustment. It is a revolution. And you know revolutions don't come without enemies. But for the first time in your reign, you feel truly free, standing not in the shadows of ancient temples, but in the blinding, undeniable light of Aten. The stage is set. Egypt itself is about to change forever, one sunbeam at a time. You stand before your architects and builders, pointing to the horizon. There, you say, is where the sun first rises between the cliffs. That is where our new home will be. You are leaving Thebes, leaving Karnak, leaving the shadow of Amun's priests altogether. If Aten is the one true god, then Egypt needs a new center, a city untouched by the old gods. This decision shocks your court. Egypt has always built upon the legacy of its past, adding temples and monuments to the same ancient cities. To abandon Thebes entirely is unprecedented. But you are determined. You name the site Akhenaten, the horizon of Aten, and personally choose a barren stretch of desert along the east bank of the Nile, framed by cliffs that seem to cradle the rising sun. You decree that the city will be built from scratch, dedicated solely to Aten, free from the influence of Amun or any other deity. This city shall belong to no god but Aten, you proclaim. No high priest, but I shall stand between the people and the divine light. And then construction begins. Thousands of workers arrive, hauling limestone and sandstone, carving out roads, foundations, and courtyards. From your palace balcony, you watch the progress like a man watching a dream take shape in stone. You personally oversee the plans, wide streets running straight to open-air temples, altars exposed to the sky, and palaces filled with light. The central temple to Aten is unlike anything seen before. There are no dark sanctuaries, no hidden images. Instead, colossal courtyards stretch under the sun, filled with offering tables, gardens, and reflecting pools that catch Aten's light. Every building is aligned so that the morning sun floods through its corridors. You also order the construction of a grand royal palace and a series of villas for high officials, artists, and craftsmen loyal to Aten. They bring their families, and soon a thriving community forms. Shops open, bakeries churn out bread, and markets buzz with traders selling everything from linen to copper tools. A new city is rising in the desert, fueled not just by your vision, but by the promise of royal favor. Art changes here too. Sculptors abandon the rigid, idealized forms of the old kingdom and instead create fluid, naturalistic figures. You and Nefertiti are portrayed not as distant, cold rulers, but as warm, almost intimate figures, you kissing your daughters, holding Nefertiti's hand, laughing together under Aten's rays. The people see these images and feel closer to you, as if you are not just their pharaoh, but their fellow worshiper. Of course, not everyone welcomes the move. Some officials grumble about leaving established homes and ancestral temples. Merchants complain about moving their businesses so far from Thebes. Priests of the old gods seethe as their influence dwindles. But many artists, laborers, and idealists embrace the change, sensing an opportunity to build something entirely new, something that belongs to their generation, not their ancestors. You stroll through Akhenaten as it grows, marveling at how quickly your dream becomes reality. Children play in the streets, women carry baskets of bread and beer, and the laughter of workers echoes against freshly plastered walls. You pause at a construction site, running your hands along a newly carved wall. This city, you whisper, is our covenant with Aten. Here, the light will never fade. And then one morning, you stand on the balcony of your new palace as the sun rises directly between the cliffs. The entire city glows golden, a perfect alignment of vision and reality. In that moment, you feel unstoppable, convinced you have not just moved Egypt's capital, but its very soul. But even as Akhenaten thrives, forces are gathering outside its walls. Forces loyal to the old gods and old ways, forces that will not let this revolution stand unchallenged. For now, though, under the clear desert sky, your dream shines as brightly as the Aten itself. From the very moment Akhenaten's walls begin to rise, you decide this city will not just worship a new god, it will look like nothing Egypt has seen before. You summon your artists and craftsmen and speak words that make them blink in disbelief. No more stiff postures, no more perfect faces. Show life as it is, not as it pretends to be. Tradition shatters overnight. Egyptian art has followed strict rules for centuries. Pharaohs must appear muscular and eternal, queens graceful and distant, children miniature adults. You rip up those rules like papyrus scraps. Draw me with this belly, you tell a startled sculptor, touching your rounded midsection. Show Nefertiti's long neck her real smile. Show our daughters climbing on our laps. Show us human. Soon, statues of you and Nefertiti emerge with elongated heads, narrow chins, and relaxed postures. In relief carvings, you're seen kissing Nefertiti or cradling your daughters, tiny hands reaching for your face. It is shocking for a people accustomed to formal, godlike depictions of royalty. Some whisper behind closed doors, the pharaoh looks strange. Is he even healthy? Is this blasphemy, showing the divine ruler as a man who laughs, who kisses his wife? But others find it mesmerizing. At last, one artist murmurs, a pharaoh who is alive. The Aten itself becomes a central motif in every artwork, always as a radiant disk, rays stretching down, each ray ending in a tiny hand offering the ankh of life. Gone are animal-headed gods and mysterious symbols hidden from common eyes. Everything is clear, visible, direct. The city fills with color and life. Villas are painted with scenes of gardens, pools, and daily life instead of the old funerary images. Murals show workers baking bread, musicians playing flutes, families dining together, all under Aten's blessing. Even official documents are decorated with the sun disk. It is as if Egypt itself has been reborn visually. You walk through your artists' workshops, admiring their progress. This is truth, you tell one sculptor, his hands covered in red ochre. No lies of perfection, no masks of power, only life as Aten gives it. He nods nervously, aware that deviating from centuries of tradition could be seen as heresy by the old temples. But you wave away his worry. Let them call it heresy, you say with a grin. We call it honesty. Nefertiti embraces the new style as fiercely as you do. Her own images appear everywhere as your equal in height and posture, often standing where previous queens would have been excluded entirely. She wears a unique, tall blue crown that becomes iconic, symbolizing her power alongside yours. Some even whisper that she might be more than queen, that she could rule one day as pharaoh herself. Even the architecture bends to your vision. Columns in Akhenaten's temples are slender, topped with lotus and papyrus blossoms, emphasizing nature and life. No roof shields the altars. Instead, the sun blazes down unhindered, casting shadows that dance like living beings. But while artists and builders thrive under this freedom, the traditional elite grows increasingly uneasy. Priests of Amun shake their heads at ugly statues and improper scenes of affection. Old nobles whisper that the pharaoh has lost his mind, abandoning divine dignity for human softness. Still, you ignore them. Every painting, every statue, every building in Akhenaten is a declaration. Egypt has stepped out of the dark, rigid past into a living, breathing future. And for a moment, it works. The city vibrates with creativity. Foreign dignitaries visit and leave stunned by what they see. Your daughters grow up running through sunlit courtyards, decorated with images of joy rather than fear of judgment. For a while, it feels as if Aten's rays truly are reshaping Egypt, not just its religion, but its very soul. But you know revolutions are fragile. For every artist who praises you, there's a priest sharpening his dagger in the shadows. Morning in Akhenaten begins not with the deep drumbeats of temple processions, but with sunlight. Always sunlight. You wake to rays spilling through unshuttered windows, warming the smooth white limestone walls of your palace. Outside, the city hums to life. Merchants opening stalls, artisans polishing stone, children chasing each other through courtyards that echo with laughter. This is what you wanted, a living, breathing city built on devotion to Aten, free from the shadow of the old gods. And it shows not just in temples, but in everyday life. Farmers rise early to tend the fields near the Nile, offering quick prayers to Aten as they lift baskets of barley and wheat. There are no closed sanctuaries, no elite priests hiding secrets behind curtained doors. Anyone can walk into an Aten temple and lift their hands to the light. It feels democratic in a way Egypt has never known. Markets buzz with activity. Pottery now bears images of the Aten's rays. Jewelry depicts the sun disk rather than the falcon or jackal heads of old gods. Even bread loaves are shaped in circular patterns, mimicking Aten's disk. A baker laughs when you comment it one day. If the god feeds us, why not bake in his shape, Majesty? Your Aten temples employ a different kind of priesthood, Not powerful elites controlling land and armies, but simple men who maintain offerings and keep the courtyards clean. They chant hymns, yes, but in open spaces where anyone can join. For ordinary people, this is new and strange, but also freeing. They can see their God directly, not rely on wealthy priests to interpret his will. Nefertiti becomes a visible presence in public life, walking through markets, speaking with craftsmen, even joining women grinding grain in communal kitchens. Her appearance causes murmurs of awe. The queen herself walks among us, under Aten's light. She is one of us. Children run up to her, giggling as she hands out tiny amulets shaped like the sun disk. Families in Akhenaten adopt this openness too. Your decision to display family affection publicly, kissing Nefertiti, holding your daughters, spreads into society. Husbands and wives begin showing warmth in public ways once considered improper. Artists capture this shift in daily murals. Parents holding children, couples sharing meals, friends playing music together. Life under Aten, at least here, feels more human, more personal. Still, there is unease. Old habits die hard. Some families quietly keep small statues of Osiris or Thoth hidden in their homes, lighting candles to them at night. The pharaoh can pray to Aten, one elderly woman whispers to her neighbor, but I still want Osiris to guide me after death. The promise of Aten as the god resonates with some, but for others, abandoning gods that have protected their families for generations feels dangerous. You try to ease their fears by encouraging public festivals, celebrations of life and light where music fills the streets and offerings are made openly. You walk among the people during these events. Aten's rays painted across walls and banners, laughter and song mixing with the smell of roasted duck and sweet beer. Foreign visitors marvel at your experiment. A scribe from Byblos writes home describing Akhenaten as a city without shadows, where the god is the sun itself and the pharaoh's family eats with his people. Traders bring exotic goods, cedar from Lebanon, lapis from Afghanistan, and copper from Cyprus, giving the city a cosmopolitan feel. But beneath this harmony lies tension. Traditional nobles who reluctantly move to Akhenaten keep to themselves, muttering about their lost estates near Thebes. Workers from old temple complexes quietly complain that Aten's priests lack experience, that rituals feel incomplete without familiar gods. Yet you look around your city and feel pride. Here, at least, your vision is real. A society shaped not by fear of judgment, but by the joy of light and life. You see children laughing, women trading stories, men crafting art that speaks of love and humanity rather than death and war. For now, Akhenaten is what you dreamed it to be, a city of peace, family, and light. And yet, in quiet moments, you can't shake one thought. What happens when this fragile peace meets the outside world, still loyal to the old gods and old ways? Foreign messengers arrive at Akhenaten, their sandals coated in dust from long journeys through deserts and mountains. They kneel before you in open-air courtyards, Aten's rays shining on their bowed heads, holding clay tablets inscribed with urgent pleas. You read their words and feel a heaviness that the sun cannot burn away. Beyond Egypt's borders, the world is shifting, and not in your favor. The great vassal states your ancestors conquered and controlled are restless. From Canaan to Syria, petty kings write the same message again and again. Enemies press upon us. Send soldiers. Send gold. Save us, or we will fall. You remember your father, Amenhotep III, who balanced diplomacy and war like a master musician playing a perfect chord. He sent troops when needed, gifts when wise, and marriages when clever. You are different. Your focus has been on the gods, on light, on building Akhenaten and spreading Aten's worship. Military matters feel like the shadows of an old world you have already rejected. Your generals approach you in council, their armor gleaming, voices sharp. Pharaoh, the Hittites are growing bold. Their armies march near Amuru and Kadesh. Our vassals are afraid. Another adds, the Mitanni, once our allies, are crumbling. If we do not act, Egypt's northern borders may collapse. You lean back, fingers steepled, and reply, Aten gives life to all. Perhaps these kings must learn peace rather than war. It is not the answer they expect. They glance at one another, unsure whether you are wise beyond understanding or simply blind to danger. Meanwhile, the letters grow more desperate. One from Ribhada of Byblos reads, if the pharaoh does not send archers, I will fall and my city with me. Have mercy. Another from Abdi Heba of Jerusalem says, enemies rise daily. Why does my Lord, the sun from the sky, not shine on his servant? You send gifts of gold, symbolic gestures, but no armies. We will not return to the old ways of conquest, you tell Nefertiti one evening. She looks at you with measured eyes. But without armies, our borders weaken. If Egypt itself is threatened, Aten's light will not protect us from swords. The Amun loyalists seize on this moment. See? They whisper. The pharaoh abandons Egypt's allies. He prays to a new god while our empire slips away. For them, every lost battle, every desperate cry from a foreign city is proof that Aten's worship is dangerous, that the old gods are angry. Even within Egypt, soldiers grumble. A captain tells his men, "We train, but for what? The pharaoh speaks of light, but enemies bring steel." Rumors spread that you are too focused on religion, that Nefertiti secretly runs the kingdom, that Egypt itself is vulnerable. Yet, you remain convinced. War feels like a relic of a darker age, one that Aten's light can erase. You respond to pleas for troops with letters praising peace and offering gold as tribute. Some cities survive thanks to your gifts, others fall, swallowed by rival powers. Each loss chips away at Egypt's influence, a quiet erosion you choose not to see. Still, not all is failure. Trade continues to flow, and Egypt remains wealthy. Gold from Nubia, grain from the Delta, and goods from foreign lands keep markets bustling. At home, Akhenaten thrives, filled with music, art, and joy. To you, this is proof that your vision works. Life, not war, is the path forward. But history is unforgiving. While you gaze at the sun, shadows creep along Egypt's borders. Allies begin to doubt your strength, and enemies begin to test it. For now, the Aten shines bright above Akhenaten. But beyond the desert cliffs, storms gather, waiting for their moment to strike. You walk through Akhenaten's great temple one morning and pause at the sound of voices, not hymns, but arguments. Two groups of workers are shouting at each other, one clutching small wooden figurines of Osiris and Hathor, the other holding sun-shaped Aten amulets. When they see you, they fall silent, but their eyes burn with tension. It has begun. Egypt's people are no longer quietly whispering about your reforms. They are choosing sides. For centuries, Egypt's religious life has been like the Nile itself, branching, diverse, flowing in many directions. Farmers prayed to Hapi for floods, mothers to Taweret for childbirth, the dead to Osiris for a safe afterlife. Now, you are telling them all these gods are unnecessary, even wrong, replaced by one, Aten. Some embrace it eagerly, especially the young and those frustrated with Amun's wealthy priesthood. Others feel as if their entire spiritual foundation is being ripped away. At festivals, old customs are vanishing. Gone are the grand statues of Amun carried on gilded barges. Gone are the mysterious rituals performed behind closed doors. Instead, there are open-air hymns, bread offerings baked in the shape of Aten's disk, and families singing about life and sunlight. Many love the inclusiveness, the simplicity, but others mutter, "What about the afterlife? What about Osiris weighing our hearts? What happens when we die?" Your council meetings grow heated. An older noble shouts, "The people fear the loss of Maat itself. Without the old gods, there is no balance, no order." You respond calmly, "Maat is the truth of Aten's light, which shines on all equally. What greater balance can there be?" But in the eyes of many, your words sound like heresy. Priests loyal to the old gods are furious. Stripped of wealth and influence, they retreat to private estates, whispering curses under their breath. Some begin secretly funding resistance, quietly encouraging towns outside Akhenaten to continue old rituals, even hiding Amun statues in cellars. One evening, a trusted advisor approaches you, visibly shaken. "Majesty, in Memphis, there were riots. Workers loyal to Aten destroyed an Amun shrine. In return, villagers loyal to Amun attacked an Aten temple. People are fighting in the streets, over the gods." You sigh, staring out at the desert horizon. This was not what you envisioned. Aten was supposed to unite people under one truth, not divide them. Yet, the more you push for purity of worship, the more resistance grows. Even among your officials, loyalty wavers. Some secretly keep statues of old gods in their homes, fearing that without them, they will have no safe passage in the afterlife. Nefertiti notices your worry and takes your hand. "Change always brings fear," she says, "but fear fades. One day they will see." You nod, but in your heart, you wonder if fear might harden instead, calcifying into hatred. To counter dissent, you launch massive public works. expanding Aten temples, hosting festivals with free food and music, and sending out new hymns praising Aten as the giver of life to Egyptians and foreigners alike. Children are taught Atenist prayers in schools, and art showing you and Nefertiti as Aten's chosen fills every official building. Yet outside Akhenaten, resistance simmers. Some farmers bury tiny statues of Osiris in their fields, whispering, "For the harvest, just in case." In distant villages, secret midnight rituals honor Amun, Isis, and Ptah. And among soldiers, there's grumbling that the old war gods, Montu and Horus, are being ignored. Bad luck in battle, they say. Your reform has given Egypt a new soul, but it's a soul at war with itself. For every person who looks up and praises Aten's rays, another kneels quietly in front of a hidden shrine, clinging to the gods of their ancestors. You wanted light to unite Egypt, but now that light casts deep, dangerous shadows. It begins with whispers in palace corridors, subtle glances exchanged between officials, and the unusual absence of certain noble families from Aten festivals. Soon, you receive the first concrete report. A messenger from Thebes kneels before you, eyes wide with fear. "Majesty," he says, "the priests of Amun are gathering support. They meet in secret, calling you a heretic who has angered the gods." You clench your fists. You had expected resistance, but not open conspiracy. Yet it seems inevitable. Stripped of wealth and privilege, the Amun priesthood now works from the shadows, rallying old allies and feeding fear among the people. The plot grows bold. One night, your guards intercept a caravan carrying hidden Amun idols and temple scrolls. Their destination? Villages around Akhenaten itself. They were planning to plant the old gods right at the doorstep of your sacred city. Another day, a grain warehouse burns, destroying food meant for Aten's temple workers. The arsonists are never caught, but you know who is behind it. Your officials urge swift punishment. "We must crush them," your vizier says, pounding the council table. "Seize their estates, arrest their leaders, execute anyone spreading rebellion." But you hesitate. Execution feels like the old Egypt, fear and blood to preserve power. You built Akhenaten to rise above that. Instead, you double down on Aten's message. You order more public festivals, where you and Nefertiti appear not as distant rulers, but as loving parents, worshiping alongside your people. You send envoys to villages with gifts and promises of abundance under Aten's light. "See," you tell them, "how life thrives when we cast away shadows." Still, the resistance adapts. They spread rumors. Drought is coming because Amun is angry. The afterlife will be closed to Aten worshippers. Foreign invasions are punishment for heresy. When the Nile's flood arrives slightly lower than usual, those whispers explode into panic. "See? The old gods are abandoning us," villagers cry. Even within your own court, loyalty cracks. A trusted scribe is caught sending secret messages to Thebes, warning priests of your next moves. Some military officers, never fully convinced of Atenism, begin dragging their feet on orders, claiming logistical issues. The final blow comes with an assassination attempt. You're walking in the palace gardens, discussing temple designs with Nefertiti, when a dagger-wielding servant lunges from behind a column. Guards act instantly, cutting him down, but not before he shouts, "For Amun!" His words echo in the still air, heavy with meaning. You retreat to your chambers that night, shaken. "They will kill to bring back the old ways," you tell Nefertiti, who takes your hands firmly. "Then we must stand taller," she says, eyes blazing. We will not bow to darkness." Her resolve steals yours. You launch an investigation, rooting out conspirators in Akhenaten and surrounding towns. Several nobles are arrested, their estates confiscated. You ban all symbols of Amun outright. No statues, no temples, no inscriptions. "Aten alone shall be worshipped," you decree. But this only deepens the divide. For every supporter who cheers, an equal number seethe in silence, waiting for their chance. You realize then what you've unleashed. This is no mere theological debate. It is civil war in slow motion, a war of faith and power. You wanted a world bathed in light, but instead, your reforms have cast half of Egypt into shadow, sharpening old loyalties into blades. The horizon of Aten is still glowing, but now, in the corners of your city and beyond, you sense it. The darkness is fighting back. The palace corridors grow quieter these days. Guards stand double shifts, eyes scanning every corner, every servant who approaches too quickly. You've survived one assassination attempt, but paranoia lingers like dust in the desert air. Nefertiti notices it too, how even friendly laughter at court now feels forced, cautious. It is in this tense atmosphere that she steps forward, not as your queen, but as your partner in power. One evening, you find her studying administrative scrolls, her face illuminated by flickering lamplight. "You are stretched too thin," she says softly. "Aten's vision, the city, the conspiracies. Let me take some of the weight." You hesitate. Egyptian queens rarely govern directly. Tradition demands they remain symbolic, powerful, through influence but not overt authority. Yet, Nefertiti has been with you from the start of this vision, and she has the trust of both people and officials. "Very well," you say finally. "You will govern in my name when I cannot." From that moment, she becomes more than queen. She chairs council meetings, oversees temple construction, and even addresses Aten festivals alone when your health falters. The people adore her. In murals, she appears equal to you, sometimes even taller, her graceful form holding the symbols of power usually reserved for pharaohs. Some whisper, is she a co-ruler? Or is she already pharaoh? Her presence strengthens the Atenist movement. When she visits markets, handing out food or listening to grievances, people see not a distant monarch, but a leader who cares. Even skeptical nobles admit her charisma is undeniable. The queen, one official mutters to another, has a voice that bends steel. Yet, with her rise comes new rumors. Some claim you are withdrawing, tired, perhaps ill. Others whisper that Nefertiti might be positioning herself as sole ruler should something happen to you. A few even suggest she has ambitions beyond Atenism, though those who say it quickly silence themselves in her presence. Her gaze is sharp enough to cut stone. Together, you and Nefertiti present a united front, appearing hand in hand at public ceremonies, reaffirming Aten's supremacy. You decree that offerings once meant for dozens of gods now go exclusively to Aten. Priests loyal to old traditions are either converted, dismissed, or vanish into exile. Aten's temples dominate Akhenaten's skyline, their open courtyards glittering with polished stone, reflecting the sun as if the entire city itself worships. But this centralization of power brings backlash. Some generals bristle at taking orders from a woman. Others question whether Egypt's army, already neglected, is slipping further under her management. The Amun loyalists seize on this, spreading propaganda. The pharaoh hides in his palace while his wife rules. Is this Egypt's destiny? Despite opposition, Nefertiti's influence only grows. One day, she dons the blue crown of war, a symbol traditionally reserved for pharaoh in battle, and addresses a gathering of soldiers, calling for loyalty not to tradition, but to Aten and to Egypt's future. Her voice rings out like bronze against stone. "We are not a kingdom of shadows. We are a kingdom of light, and I will defend that light as fiercely as any man." The soldiers roar their approval, though you catch some stiff expressions among older officers. Privately, you feel both pride and unease. She has become what you needed: strong, fearless, devoted to the vision you share. Yet you can't help but wonder, if the people ever lose faith in you, will they simply turn to her instead? For now, you push those doubts aside. The revolution continues, powered now by two rulers instead of one. Aten's horizon still glows, even as the storm clouds gather thicker on its edge. You wake one morning to the sound of weeping in the palace courtyard. At first, you think it's another political dispute, another worker injured on a construction site, but then a servant kneels before you, face pale. "Majesty, it is Akhenaten. She has passed. Your second daughter, radiant and full of life, is gone, likely from a sudden fever. The weight of it crushes your chest, as if Aten himself has dimmed his light." Nefertiti collapses into your arms, sobbing, her tears soaking your robe. You had faced conspiracies, assassination attempts, even whispers of rebellion, but nothing has prepared you for the raw finality of losing a child. The palace falls silent. Courtiers and workers bow their heads. Musicians stop their songs. For days, the laughter that once filled Akhenaten vanishes, replaced by the muffled sounds of mourning. You order a lavish tomb prepared for Akhenaten, one that faces the morning sun, so that Aten's rays will greet her even in death. It is during the funeral that something shifts inside you. Watching your daughter's body laid to rest, surrounded by the light of Aten, you feel an ache, not just for her, but for the fragility of everything you've built. What if Egypt itself is as fragile as this child? Nefertiti notices your silence in the days that follow. "You blame yourself," she says quietly one evening. But death comes to all, even under Aten's light. You shake your head. If Aten is the one true God, why could he not save her? For the first time, doubt creeps into your voice, a dangerous crack in the foundation of your faith. And then, as if fate were testing you, a plague strikes parts of Akhenaten. It begins with a few workers coughing and feverish, then spreads quickly through crowded quarters. Within weeks, dozens are dead and more are ill. Whispers ripple through the city. Aten is angry. The old gods are punishing us. Look at the Nile. Its flood is weaker this year. You try to reassure the people, standing in open courtyards, proclaiming, Aten's light does not bring death. This is but a shadow we will overcome. But fewer voices respond with conviction. Some quietly resume old rituals at night, placing food before hidden idols of Osiris or praying to Sekhmet for healing. Even among your officials, the strain shows. One high-ranking officer requests leave to bury family, but you later hear he has fled to Thebes. Others urge you to restore at least some of the old gods, for appearances, Majesty, for morale. You refuse, clinging to Aten even harder, ordering new hymns and larger festivals to reaffirm faith. We must show strength, you tell Nefertiti. Yet in private, you find yourself staring at Meketaten's empty chamber, wondering if perhaps Aten's rays are not enough to protect those you love most. The loss of your daughter and the plague carve deep lines in your face and in your heart. Still, you push forward, knowing hesitation will only embolden your enemies. But in quiet moments, as the horizon glows at dusk, you feel the question gnawing at you. Have I truly brought Egypt into the light? Or have I led it into darkness it does not yet understand? The years wear on, and with them, so do you. You rise each day to Aten's light, but your body grows thin, your steps slower, and your once unshakable voice softer. Nefertiti continues to stand beside you, often leading ceremonies herself, her presence as commanding as ever. Some even whisper that she now rules in all but name. You do not mind. Your vision was always larger than any one person. But the outside world does not wait for visions. Reports arrive of lost territories, allies abandoning Egypt, and Hittite armies pressing into lands once secure under your father's rule. Majesty, one general says with visible discomfort, we must rebuild the army, reclaim what is ours. You shake your head. The light of Aten is our shield, you reply, though you hear the doubt in your own voice. Meanwhile, the resistance to your reforms has not vanished. It has merely gone underground, waiting for your absence. Priests of the old gods quietly return in certain towns, their temples reopening behind closed doors. Even in Akhenaten, statues of Osiris have been discovered hidden beneath homes. The people smile during Aten festivals, but whisper old prayers at night. And then Nefertiti vanishes from public view. No official explanation is given. Illness, some say. Secret political maneuvering, say others. Without her presence, you feel the burden more heavily than ever. Alone on the palace balcony one morning, you watch the rising sun and whisper, Aten, what have I done? You spend your final months focused on writing hymns and overseeing your family. Your daughters play in courtyards, though the shadow of Meketaten's tomb never leaves your thoughts. Some say you've grown eccentric, others say you've grown wise, seeing the fleeting nature of all earthly things. And then one day, you do not wake. Whether by illness, exhaustion, or heartbreak, your reign ends quietly, without the grandeur of your reforms. You are buried in Akhenaten, your city of light, facing the rising sun, as you wished. But Egypt does not keep your vision alive. Almost immediately after your death, the old gods return. Temples to Amun reopen, priests reclaim their power, and Atenism is branded heresy. Your city, once vibrant, is abandoned within a generation, left for the desert to reclaim. Statues of you are smashed, your name chiseled from monuments, and even your body is moved, lost to history. Yet, your story does not vanish entirely. Centuries later, archaeologists will uncover Akhenaten's ruins, its unique art and architecture telling the world of a pharaoh who dared to erase all the old gods and replace them with one. Some will call you a visionary, others a madman, but all will agree, you were different. And as the sun rises each day over the silent cliffs of Amarna, one might still imagine your voice on the wind. The light is eternal, the truth is eternal. And for a moment, Egypt saw it. Cool down. And that, listeners, is the extraordinary story of Akhenaten, the pharaoh who dared to change everything. From a prince overshadowed by tradition to a radical king who built a city of light, erased the old gods, and placed Aten above all else. You walked with him through rebellion and devotion, saw his love for Nefertiti, his heartbreak at the loss of his daughter, and his stubborn refusal to return to Egypt's old ways. But history, as always, had its own plans. After his death, his great experiment collapsed, erased by those who feared or despised it. Yet, even as his name was chiseled out and his city left to the sands, Akhenaten left something behind. A question. Can one person truly reshape the soul of an entire civilization? Some say he failed. Others say he planted a seed, one that would one day echo in ideas of monotheism far beyond Egypt. But one thing is certain, he stood apart, shining brightly, however briefly, like the Aten he worshipped. So, what do you think? Was Akhenaten a visionary ahead of his time, or a reckless dreamer who doomed his own empire? Comment below. I'd love to hear your take. And before you head off, remember, like the video, subscribe if you enjoyed the journey, and share it with someone who loves history as much as you do. Finish the script, enjoy listening, and subscribe to the channel for the next video. Would you like me to also compile the full 15 sections, 15,000 plus words, into one continuous script for easier reading or uploading?